Welcome to Talk of the Town. I'm your host, Rod Johnson. We've got a great program for you today. If you don't know, I'm also the director of Shepherd Center of the Cannon Valley. And Shepherd Center is going to be celebrating their 20th anniversary coming up on January 16th. We've got a special event planned at St. Asker's Church in Cannon Falls. And it's actually 20 years to the day, January 16th, when Shepherd Center opened up its doors. And our guest today is the person that was behind Shepherd Center getting going here in Cannon Falls, Sharon Callister. Sharon, welcome.
Hi, I'm glad to be here. And I have to tell you, Rod, I am just as passionate about the concept of Shepherd Center today as I was 20 years ago.
I can, and that's evident. We can tell that. That's great.
Probably more so.
Yeah. And I just wanted to spend a little time today and maybe do a little reminiscing. But first of all, when did you first get the idea, that this is something we should do, this is something Cannon Falls needs? How did this all come about?
Well, I've been a school counselor at Randolph High School for my husband and I, job shared there for several years, and then I retired from there in 1990 with the plan to go to seminary. And I thought at that time it would be to be a Christian family counselor. But already the first quarter at Bethel Seminary, I was looking into their different programs, and they were starting a new program on senior adult ministry. I had never thought of that before because I'd been used to working with teenagers and their families. But the more I read about it, the more I just sensed that God was just saying, this is what I have for you, look more into it. So I did take an exploratory class at Luther Seminary, and it was I was able to develop an independent course on what the needs were for the senior adults of rural Minnesota, and I had the Cannon Valley in mind when I took the course. So I was able to make it very specific to the Cannon Valley.
Now, and Shepherd Center is actually, there's a national Shepherd Center, right?
That's right. So one of the books I read for that first class talked about various programs in our country for senior adults, and at that time senior adults were considered the 55 and over population. And there was one chapter by a Dr. Albert Cole, who was a Methodist minister who had begun Shepherd Centers of America in Kansas City, Missouri. And when I read that chapter, it was like, this is it. This is what I can see would work in the Cannon Valley. Even though there were 94 Shepherd Centers in the United States at that time, and they were all in large cities. So to have one in a rural community where there were 21 both Protestant and Catholic churches within a radius of Cannon Falls was pioneering a concept for applying the Shepherd Center model to rural Minnesota.
So most in big cities.
That's right.
So you kind of decided this is maybe the way to go. Then it comes the part of putting it all together, and wow, where do you start, and what did you do?
Well, I took another course where I was able to do some independent study and read everything I could about the Shepherd Centers of America. At that point, I approached the Community Churches Interaction Council, known as the CCIC, at one of their meetings in 1994, and told them about the Shepherd Center model, and said that I would be willing to volunteer my time in '94 to just kind of get it mobilized if they would underwrite the cost of the 6-day training in Kansas City. And they did vote unanimously to send me, and so I did go almost like May 15th to the 20th of 1994. I went to Kansas City and got wonderful training.
Great. So you get the training, you come back to Cannon Falls, and you then had an idea of, you needed, I suppose, financial support from the area. You needed people willing to serve on the board of directors, volunteers. Did it come together? Was there a lot of enthusiasm?
It did. I'd have to say that when the name of the organization is Shepherd Center of America and then Shepherd Center of the Cannon Valley, I knew from the beginning that it would truly need to be the Shepherd's Center in reality, and not just a name on a brochure. And I spent a lot of time in prayer on an 800 line, because after the training I just had an 800 number to
really?
Shepherd Center of America. And
so you could call anytime, anything you needed?
They made a lot of calls. to their administrative assistant and spent a lot of time in prayer on what do I do next. And I just felt that I was to ask around the seniors in the community that I knew who would be someone that they would say was still fairly active as a senior adult, but considered a person of high integrity. And everybody I talked to said Ken Eltoff. I never really had a conversation with Eltoff. Ken Eltoff, he was still at Midwest at that time. I made an appointment to see him. And one of the things I received at my training in Kansas City was Sharon Callister had done a special on national television in 1972. And so I had this 10-minute, probably a video, not a DVD.
Right, yeah.
And so I showed that to Ken Eltoff, and he caught that vision just like that.
So the Charles Corral, was that on the Shepherd Center? I mean,
Yes,
that's what it was about.
It was on Shepherd Center of America, and it was filmed at the original Shepherd Center in Kansas City, Missouri. And it was filmed in the 70s, so the men were wearing polyester leisure suits. The women had big hair, big gray hair. And but the concept was still relevant in 1994, 22 years later. So Ken caught the concept right away. He was going to be leaving on a business trip, and I asked if I could do a videotape of him endorsing Shepherd Center to add to the end of the 10-minute presentation, so I could start showing it in the community. He did that immediately, and then I asked, well, who would be someone that's been well known in our community, but now is a frail senior and is in need of some services? And Grace Kraft was the name I was given. And so I contacted Gracie, went to her home and told her about Shepherd Center. She said she really did need some of those services now. And that I asked if she would like to be interviewed for about 5 minutes to be added at the end behind Ken Eltoff, and she did. So with that, I made an appointment with the Chamber of Commerce to speak at their monthly meeting, and showed the video. And I would say there was one person that especially caught that vision and came right up to my table afterwards, and that was Dick Dalton, the editor of the Cannon Falls Beacon. And he said, this is what our community needs. He said, this is what I think I'll need someday, and I'd like it to be in place. And to this day, the Cannon Falls Beacon has been a tremendous supporter
They sure have,
of Shepherd Center, and I'm so grateful for that, because I don't think we would have been able to get off to such a strong start if it wouldn't have been for that support. And so he interviewed me for a couple of articles, and they were right in the paper right the next week. Then I was making contact with all 21 churches, and to call their pastor and asked if I could meet with them alone or with a sampling of their senior adults to show them the video, to tell them about the Shepherd Center concept. And that all came to pass. And what I found as I met with those people in the congregations and with Rotary, Knights of Columbus, found out every organization in the community that were interested in seniors, had some senior membership, and arranged meetings with all of those people at their monthly meetings. And what I found was that there were some people that said, oh, I don't know, I don't know if we really need this in our community. We have Meals on Wheels, we have the Golden Agers. I don't think we really need anything more. And then there were the people that were wait and see. Sounds pretty interesting, but I don't want to come on board, I'm going to wait and see. But then there in every church, every group that I spoke to, there was at least a handful of people that caught the vision, got the passion, and wanted to come on board and see that this would actually happen in Cannon Falls. As far as the financial part, Rod, when I went through my training, I was told that the existing 94 Shepherd Centers had gone one of two routes. Many had applied for and received grants, startup grants. The problem that they found down the road is when that grant ran out, they had to come up with the local money for that equal amount, and were floundering. And the other way that they were trying was to the grassroots approach, that this is not Sharon Callister Shepherd Center, it's not a few adult leaders, it's going to be the whole community. If it's going to go, it's going to be the whole community, every age level, every aspect of the community. And so we went with that, and we found out that our budget was pretty slim, the first, few years, until it really caught on. People saw our programs, and people were starting to give end of the year giving, respond to our fundraisers, memorial gifts when their elderly loved ones, passed away. And in time, I would say even by the time that the next director took over, people are already saying, how did the Cannon Valley ever manage without a Shepherd Center? And so, and I would give a lot of credit to you in these last just few years. Some of your contacts have had wonderful professional fundraisers in the fall. In fact, with Ricky Nelson Remembered, I went with a couple of women friends, and when we left, we said, wow, we feel like we should be driving 12 hours from Branson, back to Cannon Falls rather than 10 minutes away. And so it's really exciting that we've had that.
The grassroots concept, I think that's really proved to be successful.
Yeah,
I mean, and I'm sure, since I've been director, there's been times where it's like, how are we going to pay the bills, But you know what? It always comes in, and it seems like we always, we continue forward.
And there again, it was a faith. It really was started on faith, and it continues to be, I think, when we get in those situations where we need guidance or the budget gets low. That thought that it was the shepherd that helped to start it, and he's not going to have us step into an ocean and have us drown. He's going to supply the resources so that that concept can come to fruition, and it has and continues to grow and be strong.
Yeah, where, like we say, 100% of the donations come from the community.
Yes.
The money we spend it in the community.
And that was so vital because around that time there was a lot of publicity, statewide, even nationwide, where many of the charitable organizations, nonprofit organizations, when they looked at their books, they found 90% was going to administrative costs. And so that was huge, that we could honestly say 100% of your donations are going to back into our community.
Again, we're visiting with Sharon Callister, who was behind getting Shepherd Center started in Cannon Falls. And again, we're celebrating the 20th anniversary of Shepherd Center on Friday, January 16th. You are all invited. St. Ansgar's Church. It's actually going to be one of our adventures in learning that we do 4 times per year. So we're going to start at 9:30. Sharon, she'll be one of the speakers. I'm going to be saying a few words. John Hobart, Lauren Evernude, Chairman, Vice Chairman. It's going to be a really interesting day. We're going to invite past directors, past board members. There'll be a lot of reminiscing, just a real fun day. We'll top it off with a catered meal at noon. So we'd love for everybody to join us. So mark that date down, January 16th, again, 9:30 at St. Ansgar's Church to celebrate Shepherd Center's 20th anniversary. So when you started it back then, did you have a good feeling this is going to succeed, it's going to stick around? Because, I mean, hey, 20 years is pretty good.
The first chairman of the Board of Trustees was Bob Patterson, who I'm sorry has passed on since then. But he was a wonderful first chair of our Board of Directors. And I remember when we opened the doors on January 16th, 1995, and Bob came the Friday before, and he said, well, Sharon, the car has been built. Now we're going to see if it's going to run. And it has run, and it's been a good economical investment. But another analogy people used was Shepherd Center was birthed in 1994, opened its doors, and it really has become probably in 20 years it is a young adult.
Yes.
As an organization, it's not a baby, it's not a toddler, it's not a preschooler anymore, it's not a child anymore. It's a young adult. And I would have to say that it grew. You hear the statement, it takes a whole village to raise a child, and it took a whole village to raise the Shepherd Center. And part of that premise is that every single senior adult is special and has something to offer. Even those that may be in long-term care, they still have something to offer because they are helping those that care for them build patience and compassion and those kinds of qualities. The premise that Shepherd Center of America was founded on was that as men and women age, they are to be highly valued, as they were in the Old Testament and New Testament, for their life experience, their wisdom, their counsel, and their blessing. And that's timeless.
Yeah.
That was true in Old Testament days. It was true when we opened our doors 20 years ago, and it's still true, and it'll always be true.
And throughout the 20 years, I mean, we've seen different programs and services come and go, change, and that's probably normal. But what are some of the programs that you think back on and services that maybe kind of stuck with you?
Well, the first three that we had when we opened that January 1995 were the Resource Center, which still exists.
Still there.
A place where people could come and find out information related to programs and services related to aging. The grandparents in school, we had a wonderful working relationship with our school district right from the beginning.
Yep. Still do too, with the Book Buddies program.
Still do, and the grandparents in school volunteering their time at the elementary school, middle school, and high school. Foster Grandparents Living History were the three programs that, you know, kind of started bang, 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 right away with working with the school. And then the Cheerful Callers, which we changed the name to the Friendly Visitors.
Okay.
And if you want to hear the funny story about why the change, you're going to have to come to the program.
Yes. We can't give away everything.
No. But there's some very funny stories of things that happened. Adventures in Learning.
That was from the beginning, right?
That was started that first year. It wasn't our first three, but as that year went on, we added living with chronic pain and illness. We added senior walkers, which was outside, you know, walking then. Adventures in Learning was a big one that, you know, continued. Youth for Hire. We worked with the school to have teenagers, junior high kids also, help with yard work and so forth for a part-time job in the summer. And the gallery wall, one of our first decisions was we realized there were so many seniors, men and women, who were skilled with wood, with needlework, artistry, you know, kinds of things, and nobody knew it. And so we had the big wood letters gallery wall, that whole bulletin board. It was, I believe it was every 2 months that we changed. Eleanor Miller helped coordinate that. We had a senior prom.
Yes.
The first year, IBM had a live orchestra, volunteer orchestra, that came and provided live music. We had gourmet hors d'oeuvres. We had beautifully decorated senior festival. We actually had the kickoff in October 1994 just to kind of get the word out, and that was a health fair, which still continues.
We still have.
Senior resource fair, a variety show, food, crafts, exhibit. And so it's like once it got going, it just took off. For every new program, for example, therapeutic swimming, John Birch and Fern Peterson came in and they said they really needed aquatic therapy, and if I would go to the Saratoga Inn, the only pool in the community, and see if they would consider, you know, having a therapeutic swimming.
That continues
and
today.
They did, and Kurt Beisel, local physical therapist, and Fiona, I call her Fiona all the time, I can't think of what her last name is. But anyway, she's a local chiropractor, and they volunteered their time during their noon hour to go to the pool at Saratoga Inn to teach individually, each senior, what they could do in the water for their specific need. So those are just examples of the community giving, all ages giving to make it, you know,
seniors
successful.
serving seniors,
That's
serving
exactly
the community, and
right.
that's really true.
Yep. So any new program that started, starting with the first three, for a program to begin, there had to be 1 or 2, at least, senior adults that would be the volunteer coordinators. And
And that's an important part of it too, keeping seniors active.
That's right.
You know, and we all, seniors have talents that whatever they've done that they can share with people, and I think that's an important part too.
So it was an idea of the more active and healthier seniors volunteering their time to make the best possible quality of life for the seniors that were more frail, maybe homebound or maybe in the local long-term care. And I think some of them thought, you know, I'm going to be the kind of person that I hope will come and be there for me when I reach that point.
And things have changed. Now we have computers, with internet access, and we have people, seniors, and people come in that want to use that and need help setting up email or whatever. We can help take care of that too. But again, we're celebrating the 20th anniversary of Shepherd Center of the Cannon Valley. And again, we hope you can make it January 16th. It's a Friday morning, 9:30 a.m. And again, we're going to have a lot of fun, a lot of reminiscing, and we're going to have a delicious meal at the end. So one thing I wanted to ask you too, Sharon, because sometimes this is a hard question to answer. So if somebody comes up to you and says, "What is Shepherd Center?" How do you answer that question?
Well, I say that it's a volunteer organizations of seniors helping each other to have the maximum quality of life for as long as is wise, because there comes a time for many seniors where you do need assisted living, long-term care, and to use your life experience, your counsel, your wisdom, and your blessing for the seniors that are coming behind you, but also the middle generation and the youth of the community. So that, in the United States, more than many countries, as people age, they are thought to be more of a problem than an asset and a blessing. And that wasn't the way it was in the Old and New Testament. They were so highly valued, and in many cultures today, in many parts of the world, as people age, they are more highly valued than ever. But in our country, it isn't quite that way. And so for seniors to realize, and the whole community to realize what a valuable asset they are, and not to waste that. So when I talked about living history, when students at the Cannon Falls High School were studying World War II, we had a panel come in of men that had served in various theaters during World War II. We had a panel the next week of people that didn't serve. They were the farm boy, Ken Brage, couldn't get decent rubber because that was for the war effort. Vivian Brage, babysitting at the time of Pearl Harbor, wondering how she was ever going to find someone to marry because all the boys were going to the war. Lila Davis, whose dad had the car dealership in Cannon Falls, that had to close so he could work on the ammunition plant and so forth. And it was so interesting because the teacher had all the sections of the junior class come into the media center at the same time so that they could hear it, all together. And you could have heard a pin drop. Those men passed around pictures of what they looked like as a young serviceman, souvenirs, the little shoes from China and different things. And there were 2 students that wrote letters to the editor in the Beacon the next week that today I saw my true heroes. They had no idea that Arnie Germstead, who they saw at the hardware store, was a war hero. And so it's been win-win, win-win, win-win. That's the whole idea. Everybody wins in that kind of situation.
I think it's been a good 20 years. If somebody is watching that maybe is not familiar with Shepherd Center, if you'd like more information, by all means, hey, let us know. We're located at 120 State Street West, and stop in. Our doors are open, and like I said, we've got computers. The coffee pot's usually on all the time, and library, different resources. Shepherd Center of the Cannon Valley, celebrating 20 years coming up on January 16th. And Sharon, thank you for taking some time to be here today.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for taking the baton. Rod is our 5th director in the 20 years, and each director has had their own set of talents and vision that they've contributed, and I can't thank you enough for all that you've contributed.
Well, thank you, and it's my pleasure. Enjoy it. But come to our anniversary celebration. You'll hear more from Sharon Callister and more about Shepherd Center. And again, like I said, in the meantime, if you'd like information, there's a wide range of programs and services that Shepherd Center offers to the area. So give us a call, stop in if you'd like more information. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of Talk of the Town. Again, if you have any ideas of a great topic that you'd like us to cover, let us know. We'd be happy to do so. But that's going to do it for today, today's edition of Talk of the Town. I'm your host, Rod Johnson.